Welcome to Good to Go, Good to Geek Out. Place to go when you want to geek out. This is where you go. Editor coming out of San Antonio, Texas. Today we will be discussing the movie Palm Springs, aka Groundhog Day 2.0.
It's Rob from San Francisco, Boba Fresh. Great to see you.
Yeah, looking forward to discussing Palm Springs, a little off topic, not your traditional comic book or geeky movie this week, but I thought an excellent movie. There's been a couple movies that have come along. Groundhog Day, #1, the one with Tom Cruise. Somebody refreshed my memory on that one, which was also excellent, where they were stuck in a time loop.
In general, yeah, I thought it was an extremely solid storytelling. It was funny, it was clever, it worked within its own sense of logic. It built in its own brokenness, so it never broke itself at any point. And yeah, and the metaphor in regards to the core relationship was, genuine and heartfelt, and I thought very enlightened, in that the story, in a sense, is not just him growing up, but what it is to have that arc in your life, and so to not have Roy there, to not have the guy going through the angry, I didn't ask to be here, no, I wanted to be somewhere else, and now I'm mad at you, and then the transformation that ends up happening with him, and then the way that the movie wraps up eventually. And I thought it was all well cast and real clever. What about you, Lucy?
On that note, don't turn it off. There was a stinger related to Roy. So when you think it's over, it's not just for people watching. Lucy?
Yes, so I had the luxury of knowing nothing about this movie until you guys suggested that we review it. And you said, don't look into it, just watch it. And I watched it cold, having no idea what it was going to be. And so there was a lot of aspects of Groundhog Day in it. Almost, the comedy aspect of maybe some Wedding Crashers going on in there, mixed up with Groundhog Day. But, throughout the movie, I thought it asked and answered more philosophical questions than even Groundhog Day. Groundhog Day kind of stayed to you need to become your best self, and then that's going to release you from this time loop. There was more to it than that in this movie, and there was three major philosophical questions that got addressed and answered. And I think Roy was a huge part of the movie, and the movie definitely would have been nearly as good without Roy, not just for the comic relief in it, but for the relationship that they developed towards the end, and then Roy coming to terms with himself, much like the Bill Murray character, I think, came to terms with himself.
And see, that's where I think that had Roy not been there, it would have been Groundhog Day. The fact that Roy is in there allows for that ending arc that you never get in Groundhog Day, but in the sense of how a normal movie, if this wasn't direct to video, i.e. direct to Hulu, they would have tried to appease the masses, and they would have been we need to cut this subplot out. But
possibly
the fact that they kept it in, and again, it just has such a rewarding arc that you don't expect to have as part of the story. I thought it was real cool that they added that in.
So, if we go through the story chronologically in the beginning, what's going on? He's obviously, I didn't realize how long he had been there already. I don't think any of us did in the beginning. But what you do see is his disgust where he's at in life. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that every time they open their eyes every morning, and the philosophical thing there is just, it hits you immediately. So you're like, okay, it's Groundhog Day takes a little longer to work up towards that. It kind of immediately hits you and you're already in the world, whereas Groundhog Day brings you into it and then starts repeating. So immediately you're already you're learning background while you're also getting all these other concepts.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that. And The other thing is, I really hated his girlfriend. Like I didn't hate her like as an actor or actress or anything like that, but the way she played it was perfect because I did not like her in any iteration of it. And for somebody to be that dislikable takes a skill, and I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah. I agree with you. I agree with you on that a lot. It was great. Again, one of those part of great castings, and some of the dialogue that ends up just like, you know, working out. The bar that they set within the first scene of like, you know, it just not working out while they're
Yes.
and he's just like,
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Whatever. But you know, then he's just like, you know, trust me, there's no iteration in the universe that these two don't end up hooking up. You know, like it is interesting to think about, like, what is it like to wake up in a relationship that you know is not supposed to work? That's not working.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you're in a broken relationship, and the fact that they go through it in the one loop, and he's like, you don't even like me. She's like, I don't like you. But that doesn't mean we should break up. Like, I don't get broken up with.
Yeah, at some point in time, I think everybody's been in a relationship where they're so comfortable with their other, like they don't want to be together, but they don't want to be alone at the same time, and they're together for convenience sake, and they're like, where are we going to break up over this? Like, when are we going to break up, or do we have the energy to? And the one question that they don't address, you know, they get into I'm blanking on her name right now, but like a lot more of her backstory, but they didn't get into a lot of Adam Samberg's back. Like, where did he come from? He was just straight in the loop. So even at the end of the movie, you don't know what he was like before the loop.
Yeah,
You know,
I don't think he ever even says what he does for a living, right? He kind of
no. The biggest reveal you get is that he has a dog. You know, that's all they ever say about what was going on in his life before he got stuck in the time loop. And I thought philosophically, because I was actually listening to a podcast, and it was about a guy who had been in a POW for a long time. And when she asked him, what did you do before this? He's like, I can't even remember, you know, at this point in time, you know, and if you think, if you're, you know, I can't remember, you know, specifically what I was doing 20 years ago. I think maybe, but if you're in there for, you know, that's a tough one. He did lie about things to her, and he had to know a little bit more about what was going on in his life and why he kept that a secret.
But anyway, to get to the thing, let's, you know, talk about Sarah. She was phenomenal. Her casting and the way that she played everything was so cool and just so well thought out and methodical, and her character maintained the same logic throughout the entire thing. Like, and her dedication to like how she solves problems, and like when she's just like, okay, well, I'm just driving to Austin. Like, I'm driving all the way home. I'm gonna stay up, blah, blah, blah. Like, when I get home, I'm gonna fall asleep and everything's gonna be fine. And I've been there before. I've walked into my house and like they had the lighting and everything perfect of like what it just feels like. And I felt grimy. And I was like, you know, this is just part of that like great lighting that's happening. But that sense of problem solving ends up continuing when she's just like, okay, well, I'm getting out of here. Like, I'm gonna learn quantum physics. Like, boom, 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 boom. Like XYZ. Like, this is how you problem solve. Just an amazing arc that I think ends up being the heart of the story, because when she talks to her sister at the wedding, like, you know, it's, you know, she's already stuck in the loop, and she like whispers in her sister's ear, and her sister just like kind of falls out and she walks away. And then we get that reveal later with the fiance, and just being like, oh, Superman. Yeah, with Superman. I couldn't stop seeing that. It was really hard for me too, man. It was really, really hard. But it was like a dope reveal, you know, like, and it really just showed this different part of the character. And it also added to that philosophical idea of like, he was waking up to a bad relationship. She was like waking up to like,
So I, philosophically speaking, that, you know, to wake up to the worst thing you have ever done in your entire life, hungover, sleeping with your sister's fiance the day before a wedding, that's a living hell right there. I mean, if you want to look at like some what some people would consider hell, reliving the worst thing you ever did over and over and over again, she was stuck in hell, and then she went off, you know, with Niles and just did the most, like, let's just like party it up and trying to, like, it's like somebody trying to cover up their trauma with drugs is what she got into. And then it wasn't until she started to try to address that problem and her love and relationship with Niles, and then, you know, oh, she finally sleeps with him. I guess she realized that they were in love together, and then bam, she wakes up with the worst thing she ever did again in her entire life. And from that point on, she was like, I'm going to use my problem solving skills to find a way out of here. And that's when she gets into the quantum physics. But yeah, so much trauma there for her. And then falling in love made her, you know, want to get out of it and move on with her life. So I thought that was kind of interesting, philosophically speaking.
I mean, she's the mother from How I Met Your Mother. And I feel like the character she plays in this is the one they meant to create in the show. Like, somebody that you are kind of drawn to. She's smart.
no,
She's cute. I mean, she's a
fuck up that she's a fuck up that her family doesn't trust, and that's nothing that Ted would end his life with and have as his mother.
Oh, I mean, no. I mean, the way that she gets through it is because, like, in the show, I mean, I don't want to like derail this too quickly, but she's nothing on the show.
Yeah, she is a two-dimensional character on the show. I don't think that they would have made her have this interesting of a background.
No, you're right. Maybe.
Not, and at least not someone that Ted would end up with.
Oh,
she hold on, but she is also the character in the Black Mirror episode, the Star Trek episode that they have, and so I feel like a lot of the strength of her character from that one crossed over into this, where she just, you know, dominated scenes and she held her own, like even up until the end before they walk in, and, you know, like they're having the traditional "I love you" running through the airport connection, and she's just like, you know, I don't need you to be happy. Like I can just go on, you know, but life would be less mundane without you, like there's just such a realism in that relationship that broke away from the normal cliche aspect of it, where she has her own agency and she has her own capacity, like she didn't have to go and tell him about that, and she definitely didn't have to tell Roy.
Yeah.
And so, like in, like Lucy's saying, like, to have that one point in your life where you're just like, I'm changing who I am and how I interact with the world. And mind you, she's a confrontational person. She keeps like telling Niles, like, confront Roy. That car crash scene was wild.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of Roy as a character, is that when you see him in the beginning, he's just, teed up, camouflaged, trying to hurt him as much as possible. And then as it progresses, I think the metaphor I saw is when you first see Roy, he eats that tuna tartare and is like, whatever. And then when you see him later at home, he's trying to make it himself and make it better, like make a good version.
Wow.
And then when Andy Samberg's like, kill me so that way I don't want to go through traffic home. Just kill me so I can wake up tomorrow. And he's still kind of like, really? You want me to? You know what I mean? Like at that point, he has come to terms with everything, and he's a way different person than you see in the beginning.
It's interesting because there's a couple of characters that have big arcs that are like, are these celestial beings that are within it? The old white lady who comes up and is like, that's the best wedding speech I've ever heard, and all that. And then she comes up to Sarah at the end and is all, like, well, I guess she'll be leaving now, like have a good trip. And like, they don't like get into it. So I thought that was like these cool brush strokes towards, you can put your own interpretation into it. And in the solid storytelling of making Roy live just far enough away where it's inconvenient for him to come up.
Or flying for Palm Springs.
Yeah, it was great.
It's like a 3.5 hour long drive.
Right.
Hey, you got to be ready for it if you're coming to there.
And then they throw in at the other end. He's like, can you just kill me now so I can beat the traffic? Like just the level of LA-ness in that joke is fucking hilarious. Like it works on a lot of levels. It was great writing.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the older lady, and the three different possibilities, and maybe Ed saw something different. But possibility number one, she's just caught in the time loop, and she's not repeating in it. But Sarah had the eye raise, and she did mention, so she might be in the time loop, just like the other three of them. Yeah. Or the other thing, she might be almost like a mother god character, like watching this all go down, and she's the celestial being in a lot of ways. Yeah. And it like you said, you could interpret that three different ways. I'm kind of struggling between whether she's in the time loop and just happy being in the time loop, being at the end of her life, be in a loving moment, like watching a wedding, like through eternity, or and just being comfortable with that. And watching things go down, or is she the omnipotent kind of celestial being that is in some ways pulling the strings?
Yeah, no, I did not think about her being stuck in the loop. That's a really interesting point, because dissecting her words, she's like, like you wouldn't imagine the amount of weddings I've been in. He's like, you wouldn't imagine the amount I've been in. And yeah,
she could also be like a mother Gaia figure, just giving her approval when they finally are ready to like move on.
Well, she says, that's what's really interesting, because when she comes to Sarah, she says, my mother died when I was really young also. And so she is like bringing in that maternal energy to like what's happening.
And not just like, are you ready? You're ready. You must be ready to leave the wedding. As it's going down, she's come to terms. She gives the best speech, and like honoring her sister, and like, you're the little sister, but you've taught me more. And then just giving that look to her fiance, like, look, like, I love my sister. I'm not gonna ruin this, but you're not gonna ruin this, or I'm gonna fucking kill you. And he gets it too, I think.
As opposed to whatever she probably whispered in her ear earlier, which was probably just like, "Hey, I fucked your fiance."
Yeah, like that. That's the noble thing to do.
I don't think she would have said it like that, but yes, that information was getting imparted. But I will point to that one scene, like going back and rewatching it, they do a good job with no red herrings, no like, we're gonna make you look the other way, but this is what it really is. That seems the only thing that seems off or inconsistent, because as she tells her sister that, and her sister's like kind of like having this breakdown, she turns around and like kind of smiles.
Yeah, it's interesting that they would keep that conversation private, because right before that, I think what she tells Niles is like, I'm gonna do the most selfless thing ever to get out of here. So obviously that's a subjective thing, and I think what she finds out towards the end of that movie, the selfless thing is to let her sister be happy, and give her that great send off. So what she told her there is kind of interesting. Is it something that was going to make her happy, or did she tell her the truth?
So if we close it out, what's your opinion on what the portal was?
A MacGuffin.
Yeah, for sure. I was going to say a wormhole. I don't know. Fucking boom tube. I don't know what
like it was blood red. There are implications with the cave and a vagina and rebirth and like all of these things, and the idea that it's cycling through there, and she's the one who ends up figuring out how to get out of there and take control of it. So I think that there is like, I don't think that it's the power of the pussy. I don't think that it's a pussy portal, but I do think that it does have more than just a simple MacGuffin representative in this idea of what it looks like for this pattern of rebirth, and the colors weren't chosen accidentally.
How dare you say pussy portal before I do? That's something I would say.
Got you. I beat you to it.
I appreciate it.
I would say, okay, I want to close out. It's a must-watch. I will put it on the must-watch list for people. I don't think everybody's going to like it, but I think everybody can find something in it. And it is something that is, you see rarely where you can interpret it many different ways, and it engages you mentally more than just visually. You have to watch that movie actively. Anyway, checking out Rob Lucy coming from Yuba City today. Put Palm Springs on your must-watch list.
I agree with you 100%. Editor, come out of San Antonio, Texas. I do feel like this was a geeky type of movie. So if you're a geeky person, there's definitely a sci-fi aspect to it. And just remember, if you're ever stuck in a time loop, you don't want to die slowly in the ICU.
And this is Boba Fresh coming from San Francisco. I thought that it was a really solid movie. Really do recommend watching it a couple times to kind of pick up on its rhythm and its motions. There's, I'm sure, like a lot of different things in there that we could still break down. The bartender, was great. Like it was solid character building that didn't need to be there, but it ends up just being like just so. I like your haircut. Me too. So yeah, all in all, it was just one of the best written, filmed, and very important edited. Like this is one of the best edited movies, and nothing is more important to a time travel movie than the editing and how things are placed in order for us to think things. I recommend watching it. I hope I didn't give too much away. Thank you for
You gave everything away.
Good to geek out.
Right on.